If there's any questions afterwards, it'll be put up on Classroom. I don't know if anybody's looked at any of them already, but it's helpful. This is the original eye that I gave you guys a sketch of. This is actually the sheet of paper that I sketched it on, and then I went back through and shaded it. From the shading sketch, I took it, made a photocopy of it, gave it to you guys on this sheet. You guys should have all gotten this sheet of paper to use, and if you'll notice on this sheet, you've got a big blank area. I don't expect you to do anything on this sheet, though. This sheet is only for you guys to take. You can fold this sheet over because the sheet is not needed for anything other than for your demo eye. Now, what you're going to notice on this sheet is there's no graph lines on it on purpose. I want you to learn to separate sketching from shading, okay? Sketching is the first element of art using line design. This right here, if you guys all make sure you're paying attention really well, and I know I turned it sideways, the entire sketch should be done based on the curvature that your hand creates. So when I was doing this whole thing, I was turning it to get that curve, to get this curve, to get these curves, as I was still looking box by box and everything like that. Once this is sketched, the graph technically never gets used anymore after that, okay? And I want you guys to understand that it's a step-by-step process. I'm teaching you graph drawing, and I'm going to teach you after this the next phase, which is to be able to put this in a graph, and I only want you to sketch a sketched out drawing like this from this. What I want you to notice in this drawing that I have here is this is exactly that, okay? Other than I just put a mark in there when I was showing it, but this creates that. All the lines that are sketched in here are lines where they're the edge of shadows. What I want you guys to understand is when an artist draws, when an artist creates, and I want all eyes up on here looking, when an artist draws and creates, I sketch the edge of shadows and nothing else. So whenever I'm drawing, like you'll see these edges in here, it's the edge of dark shadows in the eye. Okay? White outline in there. So on and so forth. The edge of this dark. And if there's a blended area like this eye goes from dark to light to dark, dark to light to dark through here, you can't sketch that. There's no way to sketch a purely blended gradient. So the learning process in this goes like this. I want to show you how to shade, and I like this to make it look more realistic. I'm done with this sketch. Now it's time to turn it into a shadow drawing. Obviously, if I ask you guys a question, which one looks more realistic, it's definitely going to be that one. Here's what shadow does to you. Shadow added to a line drawing takes a line drawing from being a nice sketch of something into a more realistic version, a black and white, realistic, three-dimensional version of the sketch. That's why you do the value study in here. That's why you have to learn that. So what I need in order to do this, first of all, I need my blending stick, which you guys should already have. I got some new blending sticks up at my desk. I also need the sanding paper. And when I say already have, you should be already able to go up and get them at any point in time. And I want to start by showing you, first of all, you must forget that you're graph drawing now. Once you're done with the graph drawing, it's all about using the entire drawing as your shadow drawing. I'm going to work across this way. The first thing I'm going to tell you is I'm going to shade the skin. Okay? By shading the skin, I kind of turn my pencil sideways, and I shade underneath where the eyebrow is. I'm going to give it this kind of coat here, and I'm going to try to make it as even as I can all the way down to where the eye is right there. So I'm going to shade across. I try to make it look nice. I don't do this. Okay, that looks kind of, well, you guys can't probably see that, like this. Sloppy looking. I want to be as even with it as I possibly can. Shading it in there. And one more thing I want to do when I get here, I'm only going to do half the eye for you so you can see done and not finished. As I get across here, I'm not even worrying about being in the box when I'm doing the shading, by the way. As I get across here, I'm going to notice that this area right here is a little darker, so I'm going to take a little bit of time and shade that area slightly darker right through there. I'm going to take the blending stick, and I'm going to do what the blending stick's good for. Blending. I'm going to smooth this entire area out. Now, you should still see your lines that I sketched in there, even through blending right over top. And I'll show you why you want to do this. A lot of times I have the students start to sketch and start to do an eye, start to do anything like that, and they don't take the time to color underneath of an eyebrow, okay? They just shade the eyebrow in completely black, or they take the time to make a pure white eyebrow underneath of it. And what I mean by that is the skin color will look white underneath and it looks weird. You actually want to shade underneath an eyebrow. Something on the paper there. So as I blend through here, I'm also going to take the chamois right here, and I'm just going to lightly lighten up that blending because I went a little dark with it. Just like this. All right. And then I'm going to do the eyebrow. So I've shaded that in. I'm going to kind of go back over some of my lines here that I have. Some of the lines that you should have sketched. See these lines across here? Here's how an eyebrow is really done and drawn. You don't just color the whole thing in. Because these lines are, I gave you the lines to see where the eyebrow goes, I'm going to pull the lines up and off, and I don't care if I go out of the box right now. I'm going to pull the lines through like this, because an eyebrow is a whole bunch of tiny little hairs, okay, that all go around the same direction, and that's how you're going to create your eyebrow. If I turn it up like this so that you can see, you start creating the eyebrow through all these tiny little lines that you fill in and do this. You can always come back afterwards and erase that edge, make your edge look nice, but I don't worry about it when I'm sketching, okay, when I'm shading it in. After I've done that part of the shading, I come back through and I can darken some of these eyelash lines a little bit, because drawing is kind of tedious at times. If you really want a good drawing, you have to take the time to go over things a few times. And I shade in and darken some of these areas, so that way I can see them a little bit better. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to shade in areas that needed to be shaded. This isn't any different than doing your shadow circles or your value study that you guys did for me, other than one big thing. I'm going to actually use the blending stick to do some of my shading without shading in an area with the pencil. So what you'll see here, as I can kind of come down along with that, and I'm going to come around here. To shade in this area, I'm going to bring the shadow down into the eye right here, and I'm going to shade into that area that should be dark, shade around here, shade into the areas that should be dark, right through here, and I just use that as reference right now. I'm going to do about half the eye again, so I'm not going to go all the way down there, just a little farther, like this. I'm going to very kind of lightly go through this area, and I'm going to fill that pupil in the way it's supposed to be, like that. All right, blending stick. Take this blending stick. If you guys pay attention here, I'm going to smooth out this shadow. And here's the thing. You're really ever truly going to draw an eye, you have shadow in the eye, even the white of the eye. The only spot you hardly, or not hardly, the only spot you usually see that's purely white in an eye is the reflection of light. if you notice the reflection of light in this eye is right here. So as I blend this, I'm going to kind of bring the blending down through there. This is where I shade this only using the blending stick. And I'm going to bring it up across here to put a shadow into the white of the eye. Down and across. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to very carefully go on the inside edge of the eye where this dark color is. And in the pupil and in here. And I'm going to shade here like this. And to give it a little more texture across there, I'm going to do a couple spots where I just press a little bit harder. Okay? That is how you get the same look as what you have up there with the eye. You're getting a lot of probably reflection because graphite reflects, unfortunately. But you see it turned like this, and there it is from the sketch that you initially see where it starts to look more three-dimensional by adding the shading in. This is what I want you guys to do with that sketch. Okay, that's why I gave you this eye to use so that you can sketch out and get that shading to make it look like a more realistic eye. That's your goal. That's what everybody needs to try to complete, is this to look like that. But what I don't want you to do, no matter what I don't want you to do is shade in box by box and only box by box and stop at every box. This is why I eliminated the box of this. Because typically what I get when students do this is they focus one box at a time and they'll shade a square. Okay, so I'm going to just do one box. They blend this square in this box, and number one problem that they do is they do this line across here, like that's where I stop, and then I start here, and then they'll shade the next box in. And if you do this, it's wrong, because you will end up having slightly different shaded boxes. Every box will slightly be a different color, and that's what I call a checkerboard drawing. So if you hand me a checkerboard drawing, a drawing that looks like every box is shaded separately, your grade is not going to be good because you didn't follow my directions on that. Do not shade it one box at a time. Shade using your entire drawing, okay? And don't be afraid to go back over these lines for any of your eyelashes and stuff like that to make them pop after you shaded over them, because that's how we do things in art, okay? It's by working through these areas. Do I have any questions on this? It's due by the end of the hour tomorrow. All right, so that's what I want to see done from everybody. You guys can go ahead and keep working.